once again for the renegade master. Back 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 once again for the renegade master.
So hello my renegades, let me get comfortable so we can get into this, because we are back on Love Island season 10 episode 46. Now I ask at the beginning, if you're liking what you're seeing, if you're liking what I'm putting out, then please hit that subscribe button and that notification button, because I am on the road to 1k. And as I said in previous video, that if I get to 500 subscribers or get to 1k, either way, there's going to be a prize in it for 2 people. And it's going to be around my tagline, as in the Renegade Army. So let's get into it. Right. So we see that everybody's just milling about, having a chat, and doing their normal everyday things. Right. So as I say, with these, I just do it. I don't really do it in a particular order. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'll just go into it, especially the bits that I really want to talk about. So the bit that I really want to talk about is the fuckery of the challenge. Now, I always say challenges in the villa equals fuckery, because the producers know exactly what they're doing to get the views that they want, to get the people within the villa to act how they want them to act. They're pulling strings because they are the puppeteer, if you get my meaning, because these people can't cope with any adverse feelings or any adverse speeches or people speaking about them in a negative light. They can't cope with it. They really can't cope with it. The main shit that went down, to be fair, is the argument between Scott and Abby with Ella B and Mitch. Now, people keep missing the fact, like, people are going at Scott and saying, oh, he shouldn't have said this, he shouldn't have done that, because at the end of the day, he doesn't really want Abby. I'll agree that he doesn't really want Abby. The way Harry was with Kath to how he is with Abby is completely different. And he's already admitted that he is not there yet with Abby in the slightest. He's already admitted that, and he admitted that within the challenge to Wit. Now, if you'd notice that when people said certain things and he thought, you know what, they had a fair point, he didn't bite back in the slightest. But at the end of the day, when it came to Mitch and Ella B, they kept throwing little snide remarks at Abby and Scott every single time, which is why Scott kept biting. Now, Scott is a master at a one-liner. Let's just put it that way. Scott is a master at a one-liner. So Mitch could not get the best of Scott in that situation. Now, people keep on saying that Abby is bitter. If you looked at that situation that happened in that challenge, the only one coming off as bitter is Mitch at the end of the day. If you looked at the challenge carefully, the only one who was saying a lot of bullshit was Mitch. The only one who was coming off with a bitter ass tongue is Mitch at the end of the day. He's the one that's turning around and saying to Abby, he was the one that dumped her first. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Because if you remember correctly, Mitch was going back and forth between Abby and Ella B. Mitch was literally trying to keep Abby on a freaking short leash and dangle a carrot in front of her, basically, by saying he wanted Abby. He went around everybody telling everybody that he wanted Abby, and he doesn't see him and Ella B working. Then in the next breath, he's then saying now he wanted Ella B. How is that Abby's fault? How is that Abby's fault? And then when he went over to go and apologize to Abby, Abby was the one that shut shit off with him, because she'd had enough by that point. So how people don't see that is beyond me. She had had enough by that point and she cut him off. So for him to turn around and say he was the one that fucked things off with Abby and ended it with her is a doggone lie. An absolute doggone lie. And I'm telling you, this is how Mitch behaves. This is how Mitch and Ella B move at the end of the day. So my thing also as well is people keep calling Abby bitter. I get it. I'm not really a big fan of Abby at the end of the day. But let's put truth where truth is. So she's went through this situation with Mitch, yeah? She's went through this situation with Mitch. He's made her all these types of promises to the point where she saw that actually she wanted to shut things off with Scott. Yes, it was due to the fact that Ella B came in and she didn't handle that situation well. And we know she did not handle that situation well because she was the pot calling the kettle black because she did the same thing with Scott. We all know that. But at the end of the day, how are you expected to put away or hide, get rid of those feelings so quickly? Because at the end of the day, these two were talking about how it was going to work on the outside with them. Mitch was making her all these promises and she was opening up to those promises. Mitch was then promising her that he wanted to be with her, although he was with Ella B, and wanted Abby dangling there waiting for him. So how then, once he does the fuck shit that he do, is she not going to be hurt? Is she not supposed to have hurt feelings? That's what I'm asking. Anybody can chime in at this point. You can put your answers in the comments. But is she not supposed to have hurt feelings? I'm not advocating for Abby in the slightest, but I'm looking at turnabout is fair play at the end of the day. Turnabout is fair play at the end of the day. Is she not supposed to have feelings? Is she not supposed to work through those feelings in the best way that she knows how and to navigate this new normal that she is now in? Because at the end of the day, as I said with that challenge, the only person that was coming off as bitter was Mitch. If you watched it carefully, he was the only one coming off as bitter. Them two kept throwing jibes at Abby and Scott all through that challenge. And I'm sorry, me myself, if you're going to keep throwing shit at me, hoping that it sticks, I'm making sure I'm throwing the same shit back. You ain't going to make me stand there looking like a damn fool while you're saying all this shit about me and to me. No, I'm throwing it right back, and that's what Scott was doing. That is what Scott was doing. I'm not a big advocate for Scott either, but as I said, same with Abby, turnabout is fair play. At the end of the day, it takes two to make an argument. Two people to make an argument and one person to stop it by walking the fuck away at the end of the day. Right? Let's move on. As I said, we move on in the challenge and then they have to go through the list of questions. And then it got to the most smug and everybody said Wit and Locken. Everybody. Let's remember that clearly. Everybody said Wit and Locken, right? Everybody. So why is it, and I love Wit, don't get me wrong, I love her to bits, but sometimes you got to call out some different type of behavior when you see it at the end of the day, because not everybody is perfect. So my thing is why is it that Wit was pissed and she was looking for something to get at Ella with? So the shower situation became the point of call that Wit could get on Ella with, to the point where she then got comfortable with calling Ella the most selfish person that she's ever met in her life. Now, you know that's not true. She can't be the most selfish person that you've ever met in your motherfucking life. Because I'll be like, well, what type of people are you meeting at the end of the day if she's the most selfish person you've ever met in your life? So Ella responded back like, you are talking to me like we are family and we are not. So it then carries on from there, where you see OG, Ella and Ty talking about the situation. And then they move and then they walk over to the other side, paying no mind to Wit, to Locken, to Jess. And I think Molly was sitting there, didn't want nothing to do with them basically, and sat down. And Jess was like, well, why are you not coming over and changing, like involving yourself in our conversation? And Ty says, because I don't want to be over there conversing with you lot. Because at the end of the day, OG Ella was pissed. She was pissed too, and Wit was pissed. And Jess made the comment of, oh, do you think it's because they weren't voted the favourite couple? And Wit agreed with Jess. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. It's because you fucking called her selfish, mate. You called her selfish. And it's also in the way that you say things as well to people. It's great that you're confident. I love that she's confident, and I love that she literally just puts out what she's putting down all the time, and she does it like straight to that person, no holds barred. But sometimes there's a way in which you can say things to people, okay? Because the way in which Wit spoke to OG Ella was quite insulting, to be fair. It was quite insulting, to be fair. And she can't expect then for Ella to then snap back at the shit that she said to her and the shit that she put out, because at the end of the day, for every action there's a reaction, and that was OG Ella's reaction to what Witt was saying to her and how she was saying it to her at the end of the day. So then we get to the point where OG Ella pulls up Witt and has that talk with her, and basically Witt is not really listening to what Ella is saying. Ella does get loud. She does get loud when she gets frustrated, and I see that it was escalating, whereas Witt's level stayed completely level all the way through. And I am going to say that I think Witt again was wrong with this one. I do believe she was wrong in that one. Yes, you can have your view, and yes, you can talk about your view, but the way in which she delivered that was off the motherfucking charts at the end of the day. So she made it about the shower thing, but it wasn't about the shower thing. It was about the fact that Ty and Ella picked them as being smug, picked her and Lachlan as being smug. Now, my thing is at the end of the day, as Witt was standing there and putting up her names and stuff like that, and Mitch and some other people were getting a little bit upset by this thing, she kept on saying to them, don't worry about it, it's just a game. Don't worry about it, it's just a game. But Witt did not take her own advice. Don't worry about it, it's just a game. Because if you know that you're smug and you're not humble, you don't need to say that shit. You didn't need to get upset by that. You could have just carried on and kept it pushing and kept it moving, but you didn't. You got very upset by it. You internalized the fact that Ty and Ella called you smug. And there is a little bit of smugness going on, because at the end of the day, you can't tell me that when the public vote you their favourite, you ain't going to feel some kind of way. You ain't going to feel some kind of way. You ain't going to feel a little bit superior and a little bit protected. Do you know what I mean? You can't tell me that you are not going to feel some kind of way in regards to that. So I would say when it comes to confidence, there's a narrow line between confidence and coming off a little bit arrogant. And with Witt, and don't get me wrong, I love Witt to bits. I love her to bits. I really do. But sometimes you got to call out behaviour as you see it. And that's how I'm seeing it. This is my opinion on it. Everybody else is going to have a different opinion on it. But this is my opinion on it. And this is what I'm talking about. But in regards to Witt, no one was making that girl look bad. No one was making that girl look bad, because nobody can make you look bad but yourself and how you're carrying yourself at the moment. But in regards to it, as I said, with the confidence bit, there's a fine line between confidence and a bit of arrogance. And I think that night, Witt stepped over into a bit of arrogance line. And I'm telling you, the change in Witt happened when her and Lachlan was picked as the public's favourite at the end of the day, because that must have given some type of protective feeling. It really must have given some type of protective feeling to the fact that, yeah, we've been picked as the people's favourite. Do you know what I mean? So that means something. That means something to them in that villa. And that's what people are failing to realise. The people's perception of them means something to them in that villa. Bearing in mind, they have no access to the outside world. They're with each other 24/7, and they don't know how they're coming off to people in the public. So being voted the public's favourite is a good thing. And it's a great feeling that it will give you. And it will lend itself to other issues that come along, which is what is happening with Witt at the moment. Because now, since that has happened, Witt is like, no, I've noticed Witt giving advice to here, there and everyone. And sometimes in situations where the advice is not called for, and sometimes she can be so motherfucking blunt, she's like a fucking sharpener at the end of the day. So this is what I mean by being careful in terms of how you air your grievances to people and how it comes across to people. Because at the end of the day, Witt could have just said, you know what, I was upset by this situation. I was upset by the fact that you called me smug. But it wasn't just Ty and Ella that called them smug. Every single one of them voted that Witt and Lachlan was smug. And the reasons why was because they were voted the people's favourite. And since that time, they've been a little bit smug. There's no harm in that. There is no harm in that. Because keeping it humble would be, I would say, okay, there's no harm in that at the end of the day. So you just should have just kept it pushing and kept it moving. So then you had Ella B, Mitch, Scott and Abby going around the fire pit basically and having their conversation to just like lay everything to rest. I don't know how far they're going to lay everything to rest, because I don't see that working in the slightest. Because at the end of the day, all I would say is that that was the most disingenuous conversation I've ever heard in my damn life. I mean, the fact that Ella B turns around and says, well, nothing said was meant as an insult. My girl, you and Mitch were flying out with the insults left, right and centre towards them to win that frigging challenge. And beforehand, and the fact that yous all got into a ruckus, into some kind of argument as well. And you're trying to tell me that nothing said was meant as an insult. Of course it was. Those poison darts was dipped in the biggest pile of shit you could fucking imagine, and then aimed either straight at the head or straight at the heart. It was trying for a dead aim. But then Scott with his one-liners will come along and throw a hand grenade in it all. So this is what I'm saying. When it comes to these challenges and people being open in regards to what they think and feel, yeah, it hurts them to the core, like proper hurts them to the core. And I'm like, are you not picking up the fact that these producers want this? This is fucking TV gold to them, in the way in which how people behave and how they interact with each other at the end of the day. And I'm just like, oh, my mind is blown, because all I'm saying is nothing. If I was in there, nothing that these people say could fucking get to me. I'd be probably the most boringest person in there, because I'd be so motherfucking blasé that I'd be like, yeah, easy. I'll probably end up throwing little darts too whenever I could, because I'm not gonna make anybody make me look like a motherfucking mug on TV, because it ain't that kind of puppy show. I will not be made to look like a fool on TV. But also, I ain't gonna get into stupid arguments. I'm not gonna get into stupid arguments at the end of the day. But as again, yous lot can let me know what you thought in regards to the day, in regards to how people reacted, in regards to your thoughts around the Whit and OG Ella situation, in regards to your thoughts around the Ella B, Mitch and Abby and Scott situation. Now, I know full well that Scott ain't feeling Abby. Like I've said already, he ain't feeling Abby at the end of the day. You need to be in a couple to stay in the villa. That's the name of the game, and that's how it's going. Now, my thing is Ella B keeps on throwing out the comment that, well, I took Mitch for a date. That says something. No, Mitch was your second plan. Mitch was the backup plan, because the person that you wanted was Ty. But because you knew he was in a good relationship at the moment with Ella OG, you know you couldn't ask that man to go on a date. So your next backup was Mitch. So when you went in there and you kept on saying, Ella B kept on saying that she always gets what she wants, and there's one person who's at the top of her list, and that was Ty. Mitch was a fucking downtrodden second. Mitch was a downtrodden second at the end of the day. So I'm looking at the motives of these people, because then when Ty shut that shit down with her completely, that's when she focused her attentions on Mitch. So for her to keep throwing out the comment, well, I grabbed him for a date. If I didn't like him, if I didn't feel that there was a connection there, I wouldn't have grabbed him for a date. My girl, don't do that, because you know you couldn't have tried to grab Ty for a date, because that would look proper bait on your behalf. Then the fact that she said about Scott, that she, like, you know, her and Scott didn't have a connection, and it was Ty that asked Scott, well, Scott, did you pull her for a talk? And Scott went, no. And he said, well, what was the reason for that? And Scott turned around and said, because I wasn't interested at the end of the day. But people forget that little pointer, that it was actually Ty that was asking Scott, did you pull Ella B for a chat? And Scott went, no, because you weren't interested in her. And that's how it was. He was not interested in Ella B. He wasn't being rude. He was being truthful with that at the end of the day. And I'm literally not taking up for people, but I sit there, and I suppose as part of my reviews, I literally do just sit there, and then I'll pause, I'll write, and then I say, oh, I think I might have missed something, and I'll literally rewind it back to the point where I was at, and then look at all the different nuances that is going on around that situation at the time. So that's what I do when I review and react to stuff. So My things may be different to everybody else, but everybody else, as I said, is going to have a different opinion on it and see different ways in which things come up. And that's what I like. I like to see the differences of opinions that everybody else has. So that's why I always ask you like to fucking engage with me, speak to me. I don't mind anybody's differences of opinion, and we can have that chat about it. So all I'm going to say right here is this is where I'm going to leave it, but I shall be back. So please, my people, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and I'll be back again soon. Toodles.